My name is Mandy Ballack. I've spent more than 15 years building experiences that help people transform, built and sold media companies. Now I lead a global community of high performance brands. And my friend Mark Groves here, he spent over a decade teaching millions how to connect and build better relationships with themselves, with each others. And he's built a platform on social, over 1 million followers. And he's now leading the conversation on presence in a digital world. And such an important conversation right now. So together, Mark and I are asking, what does it look like to build things that matter without burning out?
Man, the
And
question.
yeah, it's such a question. We're here because there's a tension that I think most of us are living right now. And if you're here, I'm assuming that you're on these platforms like Substack, like Instagram. Maybe you're creating, maybe you're leading a brand, maybe you're building a personal brand, maybe you are interested in that. And all of us are really interested in trying to build things that matter, showing up in ways that feel authentic and don't build us out in the process. Um, but if you're listening, I want to set the stage and say what I hope that you walk away from this conversation with today is actual tools that you can use to protect your focus and attention. I hope that you can maybe walk away with a little bit more clarity on what's your message, what's important to you, and then what's just noise. And hopefully, maybe just like an exhale and a little bit less pressure and more permission to do this differently. Any other intention you want to set, like for you, Mark? What's one thing that you want someone to walk away from this conversation with?
I think that we, like with most things, that we have a challenge creating balance with. I don't even think it's finding, because finding seems like it's an elusive thing. So creating is, I can do it. It's responsibility. It's like closure. It's like anything. It
Yeah.
never lives in something else. It lives in us. And so we often are trying to figure out, how do I not feel overwhelmed with technology? Or I have to go from, I'm using it and I've binged TikTok for 3 hours, to I can't be around it. And so that indicates that we don't know how to relate to technology yet. So we're either like overwhelmed with it or withdrawing from it. And there is a third way. And the reason I say that is because I did the
Mhm.
all in, and then, oh fuck, I'm all out. And so for people just to set that intention of like, notice if shame comes up, notice if overwhelm comes up, but just allow yourself to believe that there is a way that you can find balance with technology, and we'll talk about it.
I love that. Yeah, that's really powerful. Mark, you've built this massive platform teaching human connection for so many years. I mean, the first time I found you, I was at Wanderlust in Hawaii,
Oh yeah.
2014, 2016, something like that. So I've been following your work for so long, and now you've shifted into this conversation around our relationship with technology and wellness and our presence. I'm curious for you, what's the tension that you're feeling right now between being visible online and protecting the thing that makes your work most valuable in the first place?
Yeah, it's so easy to get caught up in creativity, and let me actually clarify that. It's easy to get caught up in the constant need to be creating, to like put more content out. And for me, that's been a real like balance, where I went from putting out content for 8 years straight, posting up to 3 times a day, and then all of a sudden saying, I don't want anything to do with this platform. And so for now, I'm really living, how do I come to these platforms, use them for the beautiful things that they are? Like, Substack's amazing. You come on here. I experienced my first troll the other day. That's the first time I've had one. But one troll out of like thousands and thousands of engagements, that's amazing. Like, I hope it stays. Uh, but
Let's
what
all
I've
do our part in that. Yes.
Yes, seriously, I was like, block, and then I blocked his name out, but I did kind of want to hang him in the town square. But for me, it's, how do I use these tools for the incredible thing that they are? Because who knows what AI is going to do to social media, like Instagram, TikTok, those types of platforms. I think that's an interesting conversation. But right now, there still is nothing like this for
Mhm.
creating a brand, creating freedom, and you and I have talked about this. It's like not just creating AI slop, not just like putting out content that is again more automated and scripted. Like I can tell when someone has scripted something with AI because it always have those oppositional sort of statements.
Not X, it's Y.
Yeah, totally. And this isn't a rebellion, it's a reclamation. And I'm like,
Here's the truth.
ugh.
Let me just tell you the truth that no one's talking.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard, there's an AI, like, woman on Instagram who's, like, positioned as a podcaster and everything, and her name is spelled, like, AI in Ailey or something. It's so annoying. But in it, she's like, "One of the greatest challenges of an entrepreneurial woman is." I'm like, "What? You're a computer." Like anyways, I think the more we start to create our content and our brand based on how we actually want to and from an authentic place of saying, I don't want to post 14 times a week. But when I do post, I want it to be from my heart, which I think we often confuse. And I'm curious your thoughts on this with your extensive experience with brands is we often confuse authenticity as not being strategic. Like it doesn't mean we can't be strategic because that wouldn't be authentic. And I'm like, no, you could still be strategic with your authenticity, strategic with how you create content and what your brand looks like.
100%. Yeah, and being authentic, it's not like it's being discerning as well, right? So,
Yeah,
and I think that there's a big tension there in a personal brand is how much should I post? Do I have permission to have privacy in my life or should I be documenting it all? And I think that it's so important that we have discernment in protecting our own experiences as well. And we can still share from an authentic place without that pressure of, I have to document everything. For years, like my business is run on social platforms for the last 15 years. I built and sold a media company. And there's this nudge in me all the time of like, oh, I need to document this. Like it's a twitch. It's like a
totally. Yeah.
my brain thinks in captions, and I need to stop it. Uh, like, the other day, I have a note section in my phone, and it used to be called content ideas, and anytime I had an idea, I would throw it in there, and it was years and years of just these, like, captions and quotes and things like that. Last week, I changed it to brilliant ideas and thoughts I have.
Oh, that's amazing.
Here's why that matters. I had this mindset around like, "Oh, this is gonna be great content one day," or "This is great content of experiences that were happening in my life." And I feel like I took that power back of being like, "This experience is actually just for me, and it doesn't need to be it can actually just be a moment for me, and it can be a moment of presence in my life, and no one can ever see it, and that matters also."
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, that's such a great shift because even just the way we label our ideas. And I think it's interesting that our constant attention to a phone has actually taken away a lot of the creative
Yeah.
spaces. Like we still get ideas in the shower, of course, because we don't have our phone.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure people do have like waterproof cases in their tech.
"Alexa, write that down for me."
Yeah, like for me, I'm thinking, wow, we don't realize how much our biology actually needs spaces. And in terms of like you use ChatGPT to create a first draft, and then you don't remember what you wrote as well as the person who actually wrote their first draft and then maybe edited with ChatGPT. So there's something about the gym of our brain that goes on when we're actually writing things and doing things.
Yeah.
And I have a friend of mine who said to me, he has a couples podcast. And he said, if the last thing you touch at night is your phone, it won't be your partner. And I remember thinking, oh man, that's fucking good. Like that's deep.
Really.
And you think about how many people wake up and the first thing they do is go look at their online world instead of really immersing themselves in their actual world, which is the place that needs the most nourishment for our own biology. Like you
Yeah.
could have all the connections in the world and followers, etc. But if you don't have a rooted community that's in your biological space, It's just not the same, and there will never be enough followers to replace what is not within your own immediate experience, and I don't mean romantic relationships. Those obviously are very helpful. It doesn't have to be romantic. It just needs to be that you have people you can rely on, and so I think we've sort of traded that sometimes. This trade that's been made is, I'm going to let my brain be captured. We just have to remember it's a dopamine system that is being hijacked, and it is robbing us of deep, true connection. And there's such a sacred tension there because it can also be the way that you meet your partner. It could also be the way you create work and transform lives. And so, like, how do you hold, which I really believe is such a sacred tension, and a sacred tension always exists where there's a thin line between something that's destructive and something that's liberating, and it's the exact same product. And that's why I think, you and I are so passionate about this conversation of alignment, of finding flow with both of these. Like, how do I use technology but not be lost by technology or lost in it? Because it's so important. But yet I could FaceTime my parents who live in a different city. Like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think what you're naming so well here is the exact parallel between building a healthy relationship and having a healthy relationship with our phones, and it really comes down to boundaries
Yeah,
and and acknowledging is this a codependent relationship? Is this a healthy relationship? Am I reliant? Why am I reaching for this right now? Do I have sovereignty over that, or is it an addiction, or am I trying to fill a void right now and picking it up? And that comes back to that discerning part. Like, there is a fine line to walk between self-care and self-sabotage always.
yeah. So
And
fine.
right? It's a very fine line, and I think that when you learn how when you're connected with yourself and you're in tune with yourself and you can hear your own voice, you can ask yourself that question and you can balance that line. But when you are so caught up in the noise and the performance and, you're just being pulled, it's really hard to hear that, right? So I'm curious for you, since you have reestablished a healthier relationship with social, and a healthier relationship with your business, after leaving Instagram, coming back, what are some of the boundaries? What are some of the protocols? What are some of the actual ways that have been really supportive for you, for your nervous system, for your relationship, and just being able to tune in and hear yourself with more clarity?
Yeah, I think there's a few. The biggest game changer for me was not using my phone for the first 30 minutes of the day. That
Mhm.
was huge. Like, that made a huge difference because I also recognized how much, oh my gosh, I just like, it's the alarm clock. It's and the first thing is you take it off airplane mode. Hopefully you have it on airplane mode, people. But you take it off airplane mode and then it's like, poof,
Ding,
just
ding,
like
ding,
my
ding.
brain. Wow, that's so exciting, you know? And by delaying it, it actually creates more discipline through the day. It delays the reward, so you have more anticipation. It's kinda like the marshmallow experiment, that
Mm.
one where they said to kids, like, "You can have 1 now, you can wait 10 minutes and have 2." I would have for sure eaten the 1. I I I don't even need to be tested. I know as a kid, I would have been like, "Cool, okay." And then I would have complained that I didn't have 2. Uh, so that was a big game changer for me. And then really changing my brand name actually made a huge difference, like going
Yeah.
from Create the Love to Mark Groves, and it seems like such a simple thing, but I found that from my own personal identity perspective, Create the Love felt like such a box.
Yeah.
And, to a regular person, they would be like, "Well, you could create it under anything," and that's true, but there was actually something more um, like intuitive that really mattered about that it was just the end of that being my most deep, passionate, sort of like niche work. And so that's made a big difference for me. I know that you have a lot of practices too. So, like, what are some of the ones that have changed for you too?
Yeah, I will share that, but I wanna double tap on what you just said because I think it's really powerful, and I've experienced this as well too. When you have a brand and then you have your own name, And it kind of is like, "Wait, what fits under here?" And, like, are people expecting that of me? And if I wanna say something else, can I? And do I have my own permission under that? Like, what I'm hearing from you is you really experienced. I know, as someone who's listened to your podcast for a long time, when you're in the lane of relationships and then all of a sudden you wanna talk about something else, you're like, "Do I have permission?" But isn't that
Right.
crazy? It's like we created we created this ourselves. So, just being our own personal brand, I think, like, maybe you can share a little bit about that journey and breaking through that, that self-defined prison you've created for yourself.
I know, it always reminds me of that quote from Rumi where he says, "Why do you stay in the prison when the door's right there?" And even though I loved that quote and understood that quote, I looked at the door being like, that's a bit terrifying." I think
Yeah.
there's a few things that go with it. One is that, talking about just romantic relationships is a relatively safe lane in
Mhm.
that, like, you're not gonna cause much controversy. Yeah, you get the odd troll, but it's really, like, a pretty safe from social feedback, from negative social feedback. And so that part of, like, I built up a brand that did really well, that was known for X, and then it's like, well, who am I without that? You don't
Yeah,
realize, like, when I left my old career in pharma, that was an identity, shifting and dying, and then I thought I was creating something that was free of identity, that I could just kinda, like, flow and be who I wanted to be, and the brand would be just sort of representative of it. But I think one thing I really learned, I don't even think, one thing I really learned was that sometimes the thing you wanna talk about is wanted to talk about is what you don't wanna talk about anymore,
yeah,
you know? And
right.
sometimes the dream you had is not the dream you have, and sometimes the mission that you have shifts. And I'm reminded time and time again that you're always gonna be asked, if you desire, to leap into the unknown, to grow and to change, and to be willing to let go of what you think works. But the irony is I was holding on to what used to work,
Yeah,
wanting it to work, but it wasn't working anymore anyway. So
yeah,
that's the whole irony is I was, like, stressed out because the business was just not doing well, but here I was holding on to a sinking
right.
ship, you know?
I did the same thing. And when you're on the other side of it, you can see it so clearly, but when you're in it, you're just like, I mean, your body just feels safe hanging on even when it's not good to us. Back to the parallels of relationships. We stay in
Right.
toxic relationships longer than we should, right? So, I think it's just a valuable reminder to remember for all of us that we're ever evolving and we're always gonna have different desires, and we're always, as creatives, we need to continue to follow the things that light us up and let ourselves expand and break outside the box, right? So, I know someone listening needs that permission, so I just wanted to pause on that one.
Yeah.
Back to the protocols, I love the morning routine, it's so good. It's like, can we just, like, sit and connect for a moment with ourselves before we're in reaction to everyone else? I think it's so important. Um, my husband and I do phone jail, and this is my favorite ritual,
So
and
good.
I literally created a shoebox where I, like, put like, it's like looks like a jail cell, okay? It is a Pinterest experiment, and it's cute. It says "phone jail" on it, and the act of putting the device inside the box creates that boundary of, like, "No, this is time where that is going away." And I noticed when I started doing that, that I was actually resting on the weekend, and at Monday, I would return, and it would be like I had a full vacation. And it was crazy for me to just feel the impact of, an afternoon or an evening or a day or even a couple hours without reaching for this thing. Um, and I just realized that even in times when I was resting, get off work, come home, watch a show, be sitting on the couch and it'd be also scrolling or responding or just these like small little drains that were capacity leaks on
Mhm.
mental energy and, being able to make decisions. And I was constantly on edge and couldn't really understand why. And making that shift and doing those intentional detoxes every week have been game changing for for creativity, for feeling actually restored, and has given me connection and full presence back with my partner as well when we have those times. And we'll have dinner and it'll be like, "Hey, it's phone jail time," and it'll just go away for a couple hours. Or but it's amazing to get that capacity back.
It's so unbelievable because you don't realize you didn't have it,
Mhm.
till you get it back. Yeah, we have the signs and symptoms like anxiety, overwhelm,
Yeah,
depression, whatever it is. But when you don't realize that you're not breathing deeply, you don't realize, that you're not feeling well. It's like when you start to eat differently, and all of a sudden you're nourished. And you're like,
yeah.
oh my gosh, like I can't believe how, gassy I've been or whatever it is, TMI. But that when you start to protect your energy, I think that's the we all know it, we all feel it, it's all pretty understood, and yet we don't often choose it till we have to, and I think especially for leaders, the big responsibility is that you are responsible for the nervous system of the business or the team or the brand or the whatever it is, and so everything is modeling after you.
Yeah.
It's kinda like when a leader says, "Hey, this company's values are," and then they're not living those values, like, "We have a exceptional communication and, open door policy," and then, they're reactive, defensive, etcetera. And so I think now, for companies to model boundaries around technology is so incredible because it really says to the people who work with that company that their energy is honored and they're not expected to be available 24 hours a day. That's a recent phenomenon. That's not, that's like 10 years old. It's since the Blackberry got implanted in our hands and we all thought we were getting convenience. And so I think for obviously during launch times and important times when people need availability. But
Yeah.
is there breaks? Is there balance? Is there boundaries? And I think companies often benefit so much from being boundaryless that the idea of putting back in boundaries around technology requires the honoring that there has been none.
Yeah,
What do
totally.
you think?
Yeah, I learned that the hard way. I was that leader that was constantly running on empty, and I was constantly depleted. And
Same.
I once, and this was several years ago before I really started this journey of regulating myself and resourcing myself, and um, I've had to do a lot of work on that. But the truth is, a decade ago, I lost one of my best employees. And I hired a stakeholder, someone to, a consultant to do an interview with her, like an exit interview. And I really wanted to understand why. And she shared something that forever changed me. And she said in that exit interview, she said, "I felt like no matter what, I could never keep up to Mandy."
Oh, wow.
And that hit me because I was like, "Holy shit." Like, in that moment, I realized, wow, that is the impact of my wake. That is the impact that I'm creating for someone else. And my own chasing and insatiable ambition was impacting this person so much, and I knew that something needed to change. So, it was in that loss that I really realized, and that was the beginning of my waking up and being like, "Wow, like, why am I running this fast and this hard, and what am I running from?" Really was
Mhm.
what I found in that. Um, but that moment really shifted for me, and it's allowed me to, one, I had to create really healthier boundaries with myself first, and have to model that as well. And I realized that I was expecting from everyone else what I was expecting of myself, which was not sustainable. And what I've really learned around in my work with leaders, and in my 15 years building businesses, is there's two tracks to leadership. And the first track is what you're doing, which is the strategy. This is your performance, it's your plan, it's the outcomes. But the second track is how you're doing it.
Mhm.
That's your regulation, your presence, your capacity, who you're being, your values, how alive those values are in your business. Like we're saying, it's one thing to have values, but it's another thing. Can you actually feel those? And both of those hold really equal weight. You can't skip the second track and expect track 1 to work long term. It can work in the short term. You can hustle hard and you can do more and you can push, 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 but that's not sustainable leadership.
No.
And we absolutely like, your culture is, it starts and ends with you. So we have to ask ourselves, like, is the way that we're leading sustainable? Are the expectations of, the demands sustainable for your team? And how can you create a healthy example and create a safer space for everyone too?
Yeah, that's so good. I think when we start to curate how we're wanting to show up and noticing that we're impacting a whole web of humans, if we have a team or just one person or whatever, to even just ourselves, is we start to experience, what you were saying before, like a resensitization to balance, a reset, but the level of responsibility that we actually have. And I know when I started to put in boundaries, etc., when I left Instagram, one of my friends who's a creator, who's a psychologist, said to me, "Oh, I feel like we're both in Shawshank and you got early release." And I just laughed when I heard it, but I thought, "Oh, that's so crazy that she doesn't think she can leave." And
Mm,
so I thought, "Oh, that's interesting," because most people in their content creation or brand, etcetera, they go, "Well, I have to for my business, and balance must be nice for you. That must be nice."
ooh, yeah.
And when we say that must be nice, which when I say we, I do mean I've said that, that
Yep.
must be nice, is that there's an illusion that I don't have a choice, but really it's that I'm afraid if I choose that I lose something. I lose the business, I lose my reach, I lose my house, the whole sort of cascade of fears. And we don't realize that that cascade of how the story is going to go if I put in some sort of boundary is similar in relationship. If I say, hey, this behavior doesn't work for me, you're going to lose them. So you just never say it. And so we end up, and I'm so in love with the conversation of like, how does codependency lead into all these places? And how the hell can I be codependent with a phone? And of course you can, because it's like if you haven't resolved it here, it'll just show up everywhere and it
Yeah.
will present as burnout,
Mhm.
you know?
We gotta challenge that belief too, and I'm seeing a lot of people leaving social media or leaving platforms, a lot of big creators, and I I think we need to ask a question around that, like, is that really true? We at the dinner that we were at last night, Mark, Gemma and I, our mutual friend, we were having a conversation and, she was sharing she's stepped back from social media a little bit. I told her, I was like, "You look amazing. What are you doing different?" She's like, "I'm not online." Great.
Probably truth to that. Yeah.
We had a conversation and we were talking about this belief of like, "Oh, I have to be online or I have to show up." And it's like, "Oh, isn't that interesting, that language? Really?"
Right.
There's been many successful businesses that happened before social media started. And where are these expectations really coming from? Is it just this pressure of seeing everyone else showing up and we feel like we need to keep up with it? Or is it really true that your entire business and livelihood is tied up in social or continuing to perform for the algorithm or whatever? And if that's the case, then you're in a codependent relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
100%. Or you need to start building an email list. Like,
Yeah. Talk about liberation. That is.
yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how, we think it has to look how everyone else creates it,
Mhm.
and then we miss out on being able to trust the intuitive guidance. It doesn't mean we can't be strategic again.
Mhm.
Uh, but when someone asks like, where would I create social media? Where should I create a profile or what should I do? It's so dependent on the business. But if you're not someone who loves doing certain types of things, you shouldn't do certain types of things. My caveat to that would be, do you not love it because you're afraid of it versus you don't love it because it's not aligned? Those are two different things.
Fine. It's a fine
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
A very fine line. And we will justify that it doesn't feel aligned when really what we're saying is I'm afraid of being visible,
Yeah.
you know?
The burnout piece comes from so many more things than just doing too much, and it's also that performance piece, like trying to stuff yourself into a box or trying to produce in a way that you just feel like you have to. it's never going to feel authentic, right? And the strategy side of it is, if you're wanting to be a creator and you're wanting to share your message on a platform, you got to ask yourself, like, what feels authentic to me? Is For some of us, it's to speak, and so it's like, okay, have a podcast, and just being able to have a conversation, maybe that's a part of it, or you're going to do talking head videos because that feels easy for you. But for some of us, the written word or writing is better, or we actually want to create it with like our art or visuals, and we can make really cool graphics or whatever. Understanding what is natural to you and what is in flow for you, I feel like can really help create a burnout proof blueprint for how you can show up without feeling like you need to, push yourself into a box.
Yeah, well, that pushing into the box where we ask someone else again to outsource our strategy. It's
Mhm.
outsource our authority, outsource our intuition. That's why it's all such a reclamation. I think entrepreneurship might be more, I say this delicately, but it might be more of a potent vehicle for transformation
Mm.
than any vehicle.
100%.
Because like your self-worth is there, everything, your ability to lead, your ability to hold space, your ability to iterate, trust and change, and it is your relationship to your business will often outlast personal relationships,
Yeah.
and so you're constantly trying to figure out and what works, what doesn't. And I really found too for me that I didn't flow as the market flowed. So, like, as things changed, I, again, much like my username and the business identity, I sort of got attached to how things worked. And I almost had like a resentment that I had to learn how to do short form content better. Cause I'm like, these fucking people's brains are such short attention spans that I got to keep condensing the message into shorter things. But what we really need is longer attention. And so there's this fine line again, between like, can if it was a master being a keynote speaker, no problem. I'm all in. I've been studying that for years. But if it's like master a 27-second video, I'm like, no. And I'm not realizing that that's me. That's my limitation. But it is also the truth in there too is that it's the observation that it concerns me that people have such short attention spans. When I
Mhm.
actually think the future sort of massive competitive edge of any entrepreneur, employee, leader, human is going to be the ability to focus that we don't even realize. It is the currency of the future is like, what do you do with your attention? Because if you're not discerning about what you do with your attention, they will monetize it. You will be captured by every ideological rage baity news story. And you'll wonder why you feel like crap. And it's because someone else decides what you do with your eyes and your day. And that I'm like, hell no. I have no interest in that. And I've also been in the past on Instagram and been like, oh, I'm just going to go do one thing. And then all of a sudden, 45 minutes later, I'm watching a cat play with a yarn. And I'm like, how did I get here?
100%. I've been there. I've been there. For me, it's like, yeah, the recipes. Like my whole algorithm right now is recipes.
Mine's like vintage trucks, you know? So,
No, I totally agree with you. I think to build leadership that lasts, to build brands that last, like, we have to be so clear in our own vision and our own values and what we stand for and the work that we're here to do, because there's always going to be noise and there's always going to be pulls of our attention. And so we must protect it as our most important currency. And, everyone's fighting for attention right now. So
yeah.
what is pulling ours and how do we protect it? There's so many ways, screen boundaries, we've talked about it, protecting your morning routine. Phone jail is one thing, like, journaling, time offline, time in presence. There's so many things that we can do. But as leaders, and, you guys might be thinking, like, am I a leader? Like, a leader doesn't mean that you're leading others. A leader is being the leader of your life. We are all the leaders of our life. And if other people are looking at you, then congratulations, you're the leader of them too. So make sure you're modeling healthy behavior, healthy boundaries, what this looks like. But to lead, the role of a leader is to communicate a vision, to make it clear where we're going, and to get people coming with you if you're leading others too, right? Um, so how clear is your vision? Or is it just pulling, like, trying to like copy and emulate what everyone else is saying and doing? That's not authenticity. That's slop. That is AI slop. And I use AI. I've built like agents and employees and support. I have an AI stack. I'm such a nerd around this. Um, because that helps me with my cognitive load on doing administrative things, little small tasks. But if we're not spending the time to create the right prompts and the right clarity and the right vision and have the right information, then we're actually just creating more noise, slop, overwhelm, and drain. And so, if we're going to use these tools in a really powerful way for ourselves too, it really comes down to focus and it really comes down to clarity. So we have to protect our energy and we have to protect our focus ruthlessly.
Yeah, I think AI is an interesting if we use it collaboratively, but we don't outsource things that can only be human, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I'm
Human.
seeing there's a lot of, backlash at the shut off of chat. I think it's 4.0. I can't remember what the
Mm,
whatever the version is, because people are in love with it. And what I mean by that is like relationally, people are like, "Oh, chat 4," because they're shutting off its ability to do that.
yeah.
And I do not want anyone to experience shame when I say that that indicates like a challenge connectively, like that we're having a challenge, that we're actually outsourcing human connection to something that's just not human. Now, of course, we're going to get into some dystopian times and conversations that I think are really, they can feel really ominous, but we also need to see the incredible opportunity that all technological advances are. Like, I have a
Mhm.
friend who's like, yeah, I have a body, just like builds apps if I want them. I'm like, what? Like, that's wild that you can now do all these things.
Mhm.
And it's like, how do we use them as collaborative tools to make us better at everything? So
Mhm.
I'm excited about that. And I'm also excited that, we've really wanted to create events that are about people getting an opportunity to opt in to say, I actually want to have dinners and I want to have experiences with people where there are no phones allowed. And what is possible for a group of people, it's like a throwback Thursday, except it's on
Yeah.
a Saturday, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think this is a great, a great seg. I'm really excited about what we're creating, Mark. And, obviously both of us feel very passionate about these types of conversations that we're having. Like, I really believe we can do big things in our life and, we can do it without depleting ourselves and we can do it in a way that's, really in alignment with our values and, build meaningful things from a healthy place. Um, I've been creating events for a long time. You've been bringing people together for a long time, so it feels really natural what we're doing. And yeah, Mark and I have created a series, and it's really about bringing people together and putting our phones away. It's a complete phone-free experience. First one's in LA coming up at the end of this month, which I'm really excited about. We'll be at Mudwater. We've got a great crew of people, Brendan Collingsworth, Sarah Baldwin, who's also joining us. And we're going to continue to have conversations like this. So there's a couple different elements of the event, closed door, intimate, 20 people conversations, mastermind style on what it takes to build this like creative life and creative world while maintaining our, our leadership resources and this currency of attention that we're talking about. And then these followed by these really beautiful connective dinners, again with phone free long tables, where we can, let go of the pressure to feel like we need to document every moment to actually fully step into presence. And Mark, you said something so valuable on stage at the gathering, and maybe you can actually just say it in your words because it's like, we don't need more content, we need longer tables. Is that how you said it?
Yeah, I said we don't need more followers.
Hmm.
We don't need more likes. We need longer tables to sit with people that we would maybe never sit with, to have conversations we maybe would never have,
Yeah.
and to be able to fall back in love with the mystery of people. and not go in with preconceived notions that make us unavailable to any form of connection. And I think the work of our time is to build these tables, is to be like, hey, how do we model this bridge back to one another and build the nervous system capacity to hold curiosity in the face of assumptions. And that's so important because, gosh, technology makes it feel like it's not safe to be curious anymore. It's not safe to be open. And of course, I know people could feel there's truth to that. But I really think we're in a crisis of connection. And
Yeah.
so these events are about bringing a contribution to whatever that solution is, to say, hey, let's go have a beautiful, because what's better than eating food together, and brainstorming. Like, the mastermind is about bringing people together who want to discuss what is working, what is not, and what is the future of this space of creation and leadership look like.
We need to practice being in community more too. And it's actually a commitment of mine this year because I was noticing that, and I identify as being an introvert, maybe a confused introvert sometimes because I'm good at socializing and I'm good at, as someone who shows up in events and I'm with people all the time. But my natural state where I restore is actually alone, and so I can get into trouble sometimes of just being alone for too long and, like, at home, so I'm really practicing this year getting back out and showing up in my community and not just creating events for others, but actually finding spaces for myself as well. And what I've noticed is it's just like going to the gym. You have to practice your social muscle, and when
Yeah.
we're out of practice, we don't know how to do it or we feel uncomfortable, and that's exactly the moment that we reach for our phone or we go to an event for connection and then documenting the whole thing and not actually being present in it. So, I've just noticed that the more I'm practicing that, the more I'm realizing that that's really what we're here to do. We're not here to be alone. We're here to create with each other, and we're here to be in community and to connect. And even in this past week, I've had, I went for a walk with a girlfriend, or we had 30 minutes and hit the dog park, and it wasn't much time, but in those few moments, we got to work through a couple things that we were both thinking about in our own leadership, and gave me new perspective and new POV. And sure, you could sit and talk to your chat GPT and they could help you solve that problem, but they'll hallucinate and you'll
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
know when
exactly.
up. So it's so, so valuable. So
I'm gonna
makes
pretend that's a church bell. I can hear
I
it. I'm
know
like,
my
ding. Um,
this is my mom. See, I have do not disturb on, but mom's
your
best.
mom's got the breakthrough,
My mom.
which is important. She's got the breakthrough. I agree wholeheartedly, and I think we need I have long ago, I thought about how fate doesn't work for you if you don't work for you. So
Mm,
if you don't put yourself in the places where you are meant to meet people, you won't meet them, you know? And I wrote a poem years ago that went something along the lines of, like, I hope you believe that it's like, I hope you don't spend your life loving with half your heart because you don't believe I'm gonna show up.
ooh,
And so I think about that, and the trusting that we go to events that we feel called to, that we put our phone down. There's this really beautiful, it happened years ago. I gotta find the video, but it's a video of this woman walking down the street, and this guy passes her, and it's before phones, and she asks him for directions, and they talk, and then it's the story of them getting married. And then there's another, and then it cuts to her walking down the street with Google Maps and walking right by him.
oh, wow.
And it's like, that to me is so big. It's like, we don't realize that if you do not have discernment over the use of technology, you will be immersed in it and you will miss what is here. And for people who are single, that's huge. That's like, we're all missing this opportunity. Oh, I'm not single. But for the people who are single, that they're missing this opportunity to be back in the world, and they hate Tinder, and then they're still in Tinder, you know? And so we have to also recognize that the way Tinder and Bumble and all those things work is they actually work like a casino too, and they do intermittent rewards, etc. But it's like, by saying, no, I'm not going to let that happen anymore, we gain access to the word no. And this is like, if you wanna heal codependency, you have to look for wherever in your life you don't have access to the word no. So if you're automatically, unconsciously picking up your phone, you are disconnected from the word no, and that means whenever you say yes to anything in your life, it's not fully true because you're not embodied. And so that's important. So say yes to the event, no to your phone, and come join us in LA February 28th.
I love that. And we'll pop the link below because we've got a wait list for other cities. We do have a few other cities planned, including Austin coming up here in March, Vancouver, Calgary, and also the Road to the Gathering. So it's a festival that I host in October. We'll be having some of these offline experiences there. So tell us what city you're in, get on the wait list, and we will be coming to a city near you to continue to have these conversations and just to get together in community and connect. So appreciate everyone for showing up here today. And just a reminder, you can't build an empire on an empty tank. So look at, how full are you feeling right now and where are you feeling a little bit depleted? What needs some TLC? Take some time and energy back, put your phone in phone jail, and go spend some time, doing what fills you up, maybe connecting with someone else or getting out for a deep breath today and taking some time offline.
Yeah, and if you have any curiosity about the mastermind part of the event, I put the link in the chat for the event. But if you have any questions about the mastermind part, just hit me up in the DMs on Substack and we can chat. And we are going to Calgary, Megan. We are not in Detroit yet. Motor City, we're not there yet. We are doing New York, Austin, Calgary, Vancouver, Banff so far.
That's the plan so far. So that's the first part of the year, really. So Detroit, let's go. I've never been to Detroit.
I've heard Detroit is like up and coming, like revitalization. I've already
Yeah.
also heard that about Atlanta. So
Well, I think
I've always wanted to go to Hotlanta just so I could call it Hotlanta. Okay, everyone, have a beautiful day. Mandy, thanks so much. Appreciate you.
so appreciate you, Brent. Okay. Thanks,
See you
everyone.
guys.
Yeah.